Hello and welcome to That's What She Said. I am Naziba Bashar, your host for this one-of-a-kind podcast about society, power, and lived truth. Here we do not talk to women as a sidebar. We talk to them as primary narrators of the world we live in. Every major decision this country makes, political, economic, or social, lands on women's bodies, labor, and lives. And yet, women are almost always asked to respond after the fact. This podcast recenters women not as commentators on women's issues, but as authorities on reality itself. The title, That's What She Said, is intentional. This is a phrase that has long been used to mock, trivialize, or dismiss women's voices. A punchline at best. This podcast intends to flip that phrase on its head, because this conversation is what women are actually saying when they're allowed to finally finish. We're starting this podcast with the most talked about topic at the moment, the election. After 16 years, Bangladesh is facing what many are calling its first real national election. Voting is being talked about as a democratic exercise, a civic duty, and a neutral act. But for women, especially women reporting from the field, whether neutrality exists is questionable. Covering elections as a woman means your body, your safety, and your credibility are always a part of the story. And yet, that part rarely makes into the headlines. And that's what today's episode is about. Today, I am joined by a fellow journalist who has spent years reporting from the ground, navigating fieldwork, sources, law enforcement, and political spaces that still assume men as the default. I didn't choose her just for her byline or experience. I chose her because she knows what it means to report democracy while constantly calculating risk. Because she understands what it costs to be present in spaces where women are expected to observe quietly and not ask questions. We will, of course, also talk a little bit about the current election atmosphere. Please welcome senior reporter of the Daily Star, Zaima Islam. Zaima, thank you for being my first guest on That's What She Said. I'm so excited to open this with you. So, issue is, of course, election. There's not much of a topic. I mean, there's no other topic that people are actually talking about right now. So, of course, I want to talk to you about the election. Right now, what everyone keeps saying is that this is possibly the first real election that Bangladesh is going to see in 16 years. I know that when you're out, even, for other purposes, you do have that journalist lens going on for you all the time. What are you seeing on the ground right now? What does the atmosphere look like?
Naziba, have you ever voted in a parliamentary election?
No.
I haven't either.
No.
So we spent the entirety of our adult lives never having voted in an election. We should have been eligible to vote in at least, two elections? In at least two elections by now. So I would have had the chance to decide my government on at least two occasions, which I haven't done. And so both of us are on the upper end.
Would you say which you haven't done or which you were not allowed to do?
Exactly. I wasn't allowed to do. 2014, my lawmaker was elected uncontested. So there was no question of me going there and voting. And 2018, the elections were a farce. 2024, I decided to I
think 2024 is the one election that we decidedly all didn't want to vote.
We didn't want to vote.
We didn't go.
We just didn't go. We spent our time reporting on the elections instead. 3 elections actually, not two. Three. And this is for the first time we will be voting, and we are on the upper end of the age spectrum for the youth. So the youth would be considered 18 to 35, right? Mm-hmm. And we're both on the upper end of that. Imagine this entire population of people, 18 to 35, the youth, the entirety of the youth, they've never voted in their lives.
Exactly.
They're going to be voting for the first time.
For the first time,
The excitement of this cannot be explained. The atmosphere outside,
palpable,
it's palpable. It's electric. The air is buzzing with this excitement. I think I was explaining to someone before when they asked me to describe the vibes. So I'm like, okay, so the vibes. It's like the 2 or 3 days right before you're planning, right before a big wedding, if you're planning the wedding, and the 2 or 3 days before that, when you're unsure of the new journey you're about to embark on, you're
like there are jitters and
there are jitters, there's the butterflies, but at the same time, the curtains have to match the chairs. The guest list has to be sorted out. The flowers have to look good
because it's gonna happen.
The caterers have to be paid. It's happening, regardless of whether you want it or not. It's happening, and and you're embarking on a new journey.
Exactly.
So it's a little like that. It's going to be a new marriage.
Right. It is actually going to be a new marriage, if you put it like that. But can I ask, do you think there's an element of doubt or fear also coming into play? I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of excitement. Like you said, everyone's very excited to be able to vote. But is there any element of doubt or fear going on, especially because of what we faced in the past?
See, that's why I use the analogy of the wedding. Because there's always doubt and fear. And there are so many questions about the process in which these elections have been arranged. There are questions about whether or not having the Awami League taken out of the political race is in any way making this a non-inclusive election. And there are justified, I think, explanations on both sides of this argument. So people wanting the Awami League in the elections, people not wanting the Awami League in the elections. And I want to be respectful of both their, both opinions. So it's not my opinion here that matters, because I am a journalist at the end of the day. So people who want Awami League in the elections say that not having Awami League is disenfranchising a large portion of the population who now don't have anyone to vote for, or so they say.
Right.
Whereas the people not wanting Awami League in the election are still reeling from the trauma of the July uprising, when nearly 1,400 people were shot dead. And so, that's sort of the elephant in the room as we head into elections. There's also the referendum process. So we will be having a referendum this time, and people will be voting yes or no on 84 different reforms.
Concentrated into 4 questions, I believe.
Concentrated into 4 questions. I think if anyone gave me more than 5 options and then asked me to vote yes or no, I would have a hard time. And then there are 84 of them. And not all of these reforms are clear to even the smartest of people. Because this
like I was telling you, I still have people. I mean, it's 2 days to election, and I still have people who don't really, they can't grasp what this is about. I still have people coming up to me and ask, what is this referendum thing? What's happening? What am I voting for? What am I saying yes to or no to?
I can't remember all 84 reforms.
Yeah, of course.
For example, just a few days back, a friend of mine told me that a certain part of the Constitution is not going to be... it's going to be changed because of this referendum process. And I had no idea. Because it really is 84... It's a set of 84 different changes that we're saying yes or no to. It's impossible to keep that in mind when you're voting. So I think there's confusion about that, which is going to harm the referendum process. And it's the confusion is going to harm some of the good, much needed reforms that are now being put up for public voting. I wish that confusion, that sort of general, feeling of not knowing what I'm voting for could have been addressed before we went into the referendum. People are very concerned about women's rights.
Yes.
It's come up big in the last few weeks. We've definitely had a swing towards the right wing of the political spectrum. Our political parties or the political parties in the race at the moment have gotten progressively more conservative. That's an actual word I just said. Progressively more conservative.
But it makes sense.
So they've gotten progressively more conservative. And so women are afraid. Which is,
I think I can say I am too, somewhat. But
women are afraid that they're going to have to fight for some of the hard-earned
rights that we already had.
Some of the ground that they had already gained, and then to have this being put to debate again is something women are worried about doing, which is, I think, a fair.
It's a fair worry.
It's a fair worry.
It's a fair fear.
The youth are worried about a return to old systems of cronyism in politics.
Yeah.
So, regardless of the sort of the new face of BNP, there's always going to be
a doubt,
a quiet doubt. Yeah, I'm going to use the word doubt here. A quiet doubt about whether they will truly uphold the aspirations that the July uprising instilled in people regarding the kind of political change they wanted to see, regarding the kind of political structures they wanted to see in place. People don't want to go back to the old methods. And I think, BNP has been doing a pretty good job in dispelling some of these fears with the fact that the party is now being led by a very fresh new face whose entire sort of political persona, the way he carries himself, is very progressive, quite westernized in a way as well.
It's actually, to me, it seems influenced by the West very much.
Yeah, I know. He's feeling his daughter, a young graduated woman. She's saying the right things everywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
So they're definitely trying to show that they're changing for the better. But you
can't really know until the election is over, though. Right?
Yes, and so but that fear is there. So with both the options on the table, there are a certain set of fears associated with both these parties that the voters will be taking with them as they enter the polling booths.
Yeah. You've covered elections before, and you've also covered campaigning before. Compared to previous campaigns and everything, how, not just politically though, in terms of also access, safety and pressure, what is the difference this time? What do you see that's different?
The one thing I think journalists will not be afraid of this time would be elections day violence from a particular political group that has impunity in the eyes of the law enforcers. Yeah. If you had gotten beaten up in the last elections, if you had your camera snatched away, if you were attacked, all of that happened with impunity.
Yeah.
This may be the first time that journalists will have a bigger voice, and their voice will be heard by the state.
And even if there is election day violence, there will be accountability. Or at least we can assume there will be.
We can assume that there will be some accountability. There won't be goons and gadders attacking journalists and expecting to get away with it.
Right.
That is going to be different. I mean, it's a little odd saying this sitting inside the Daily Star, the studio of the Daily Star, which was trashed a month ago.
Yeah, just a month and a half ago.
Yeah. I mean, it's quite remarkable, the fact that we got the studio put together this fast. You remember what it looked like?
When it comes to accountability, I think we're lacking accountability over that incident as well.
We're lacking accountability over the incident of our own attack.
Yeah.
But, those situations are a little different because that was a mob which had attacked the Daily Star. Whereas if I'm specifically talking about polls day violence in polling centers, that's going to be a little different this time.
Right.
We are, however, ready for a very violent election.
Yeah. I think everybody knows at the back of their heads that things might just get very, very ugly.
Things will get very ugly. Yeah, we're pretty prepared for that. I'll be surprised if it doesn't, because this is, first of all, violence has always been a sort of a way of life. But in politics here, we've seen very high-profile political assassinations.
Yep.
Beyond the high-profile political assassinations, we've seen routine political assassinations happening that get squeezed into some corner of the newspaper, or that just becomes a stat to be aggregated at the end of the month. But the bloodshed has been bad. The bloodshed statistically, the bloodshed has been worse than it has been in 4 years. So the fact that politicians, political activists are killing each other and have been killing each other for the last 1.5 years does not it sort of sets the tone for what we are going to, or what we may be seeing
on
elections day. Their elections might be suspended in a few constituencies because of that, and that's also something we're mentally prepared for.
That's something that's being discussed in, I think, all newsrooms, that
the election is going to be going on for a while. I mean, it's sad. And we started the podcast on such a happy tone.
Festivities and everything, but now we're right back to violence.
Right back to violence and death. So it's a little sad.
But I think in Bangladesh politics, you can't really talk about politics or elections without talking about violence and death, can we?
No, we also have to start not taking it as normal. We don't have to take it as the method of doing business.
Exactly.
We have to start feeling
uncomfortable about
it. Yeah. We have to start saying that this is not all right.
You can't keep doing this.
You can't keep. I think the last year, something like 100 people died. I can't recall the stats at the top of my head.
But political violence on it, like there was a lot of people.
And I'm very uncomfortable with the fact that to us these people are no more than figures
and numbers. Absolutely. Let's talk about neutrality in journalism. There's an idea that journalism is neutral. It's supposed to be neutral, but how neutral can reporting really be? And I'm talking to you as a woman journalist over here. How neutral can your reporting be when your gender shapes how your sources, how your police, how your political actors respond to you?
Right. So before I answer that, let me sort of answer how neutral can journalism as a woman be when there are elements in the field or in the political field
who are speaking directly against your gender.
Yes. Or against my rights. I have a particular brand of feminism. I have my feminism is shaped by how I grew up, what school I went to, where I was born, what my parents do.
Which family you were born into.
And where I work. I try and I remain conscious of that.
Right.
So I try and I remember that my feminism is something that I think women like me should definitely aspire to, but it may not be the reality for all the women out there, especially when we're talking about marginalized women, when we're talking about, say...
ethnic minorities,
religious minorities. We've been talking a lot about the fact that Jamaat's Amir said women cannot ever be the prime minister because God apparently made women differently. I try and I remember that, you and I sitting here can dream of running for office. We can perhaps even dream of becoming the prime minister. But think of a woman who is who makes a living, say, as a part. Think of a woman in a climate hit area where she's like a fisherwoman.
Right.
She's not thinking about running for office.
She just wants to live in peace.
Yeah, she's thinking about security. She's thinking about a rising sea levels. She's thinking about water salinity. She's thinking about ensuring education for her children.
She's thinking about the next day's food.
She's thinking about soil salinity, why the crops aren't as good as it was last year.
Exactly.
And that's why when I when I try and when I talk about women's rights, I try to make sure I take a 360-degree view of the needs of women, and then use my editorial judgment accordingly. So even when it comes to contentious issues like women can't be prime ministers because they're biologically different, I may personally disagree with it, and I will still provide solidarity to the women who don't think that this is hugely problematic. The women who are not seeing that this is an affront to their very rights.
Because they are worried about other things of their lives, right?
Yes, and I try and I remember that all the time. I think that it's so, as journalists we are taught to leave our political identity outside of the door before we enter the newsroom. And for the first time, I'm not only having to leave my political identity outside, but also my gender outside.
No, exactly.
So,
like you just said, that you have to leave your political identity and gender outside. What other calculations do you have to make before you go out on assignment that, say, perhaps rarely ever get talked about, or things that perhaps your male colleagues don't have to do?
Safety is, it's never taken for granted when you're a woman in Bangladesh, and especially a woman in public space. I have had an easier time as as the years go by. I'm getting a little older. I think probably a little bit more well known than I was, say, 10 years ago. So it's getting a little easier. But then when I think back to some of the horrendous things that have happened when I was younger, policemen sexually harassing me while I'm out on duty, covering them, and I have to be nice about it because I have to go back with the news. That's one thing. I didn't want to be that, or I couldn't afford to be that reporter who came back to her supervisor and said I couldn't finish covering this news because I was sexually harassed. And I couldn't do that because at that point I was one of the sole female reporters in the newsroom. And I think that's been a very similar experience with you as well. And
I think we were both very excited when we both joined the newsroom together, and we're like, okay, finally, we were together, that we finally have another person.
And I was very young. I was, I think, 21 when I joined the newsroom. I had a point to prove.
Oh, I remember that gusto. I remember that zeal.
It was, anything. I had to work twice as hard as a man just to be able to claim a space in what was essentially a predominantly male space, male industry.
Entirely.
I remember there was this one, I was on the crime desk at that point in time, and there was this one murder that had happened. It was a very high profile murder, terrible murder, that had happened in the middle of the night, probably around like 11 p.m. or something. And it was in Gopi Bagh, which was very far away from my office, and not necessarily a very safe area either. It's like near the Kamlapur train station. There was no one else who could go, and my supervisor didn't want to send me. He was, I think, concerned about sending a woman that late into the night, and I straight up told him, look, I'm going either way, so if you don't want to take the news, then I'll just go and give it to some wire agency. And I went there and I made my point that you don't get to treat me differently. You just get to give me some safety measures. So I told him that I need a CNG for my movement, and he gave me a CNG. And I think that's where it was I remember that as a learning experience where I need my newsroom or my organization to stand by the women as they chase their dreams. While giving them the safety measures that they need. It was that. I mean, that's just one of the experiences. But sexual harassment, I think, was very defining during my early years,
and I think
especially from men with guns, man.
Oh yeah, and I think younger female journalists right now will have the same thing to say. Like 10 years down the line, that it did define how they move about within their profession, within their career.
I think so. A lot of women drop out of this industry because of sexual harassment. They are, and which is fine. They decide to take a stand against it. That is completely acceptable. I salute their decisions. I refuse to let my place go because I know that it's not going to be replaced by another woman.
Yes, yeah, that's exactly the point. But we're kind of stubborn, huh?
I'm stubborn.
Yeah.
And so that's something I decided to, for lack of a better word, swallow.
Right. All right. So right now, like you said, let's go back to the festivities.
Yes.
So like we started off saying that it's a very festive mood going on right now on the streets, and I can see people like huddled in neighborhoods, in tea stalls, like we always used to say, chayar adda Rajniti Ralap. So it's going on right now in campaign offices. How would you describe the overall mood? And is it excitement, caution, hope, fatigue? Is it a mix of it all? And what do you think? What you told me about women's. You told me about women's concerns. You told me about youth concerns. Are there any other concerns that are coming up right now? I mean, say, day laborers, low wage earners. What kind of things are you hearing from them?
Yes. So I want to talk a little bit about, say, religious minorities or wage earners.
Yeah.
I was previously talking about the vulnerabilities of different classes, and when it comes to wage earners or daily wage earners or the religious minorities, maximum of whom are very vulnerable in that they're not urban, they're located in rural areas. The question is entirely about safety and who can provide them with the most safety.
Right. Especially, I think, for religious minorities, this is a huge, huge issue. The biggest issue, I believe.
That's their biggest issue. I think religious minorities have seen horrifying violence since the July uprising.
Yeah.
And I know our government has been trying to brush it under the rug by saying that these are mostly
but we have studies, we have reports, we have the numbers. Yeah,
we've seen it. The violence was there. The violence was perhaps not as much as what the Indian media would like us to believe. Campaigns.
We can't even go that far. Yeah,
and the violence was definitely not as negligible as what the government would like us to believe.
Yeah,
the violence was there. The violence was, and the way I try and rephrase. Sorry, the way I try and phrase this is blood does not need to be shed for it to be called violence. If a Hindu person lost a job,
yeah,
because he was Hindu, if a Hindu person was not allowed to rent a house,
right,
because he or she was Hindu, if a Hindu person just felt
not allowed to pray,
or just generally felt more unsafe and more unsure about a future.
Even that instilling of fear in them, that itself is violence. No, wouldn't you say
exactly. That? And so for them, safety will ultimately be the defining question as they go into the polling booths. They will be voting for who gives them safety. You would be surprised. The question is, the answer to that question may not always be the more progressive party.
Right. Yeah.
Because ground realities are sometimes very different. Sometimes you might have conservative parties providing them safety, maybe not providing them with their political and democratic rights,
right,
but providing them with the basic that they're asking for, which is safety.
Right.
That the other party isn't.
How about women's participation right now? I mean, we've spoken about women in the public and their concerns. But women's participation in terms of campaigning or being in political conversations, it's been a while, I think, that they came up so much in conversation, women in politics. What have you seen surrounding this? I mean, let's talk about Tasneem Jara. She is one of the most heard names right now. So what are your thoughts on that, and how different is it from previous elections?
My thought on that is that individual achievements do not translate into lasting changes for the class. Tasneem Jara is absolutely amazing. There's no doubt about that. What she's done as an individual candidate, as an independent candidate, breaking away from the protection that a party would have been able to give her, and making a mark for herself in a field like politics. It's unheard of. It's absolutely unheard of for a woman to do this. She's pioneering.
And with so much transparency as well,
Yeah. But having said that, how many women do you see in the other political parties? I mean, Jamaat-e-Islami has put out no female candidates.
At all,
At all. They have no qualms about sending women or about sending their women door to door to campaign for the men. But to put the women in lawmaking positions, that they won't do. BNPs know better. Sure, as a party, they may not say that their party line may not be misogynistic, like officially misogynistic. But at the same time, it's not translating into practices. How many women have they fielded? Not even 5%. And 5% was...
NCP fielded the most amount of women, has it?
NCP did field... But NCP is at the moment with Jamaat.
Right.
So it's a part of a coalition.
11 party alliance, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a coalition. Ganoshanghati Andolon, they fielded more than 5%. And 5% is what they had
the basic
signed, what they had all committed to when they signed the July Charter. It was the result of a political consensus that took months to achieve. Many cups of tea.
Many cups of tea.
Many taxpayer takas spent. And you did not stick to it. You broke the rule the first chance you got. So it was more important to all these political parties to achieve their what they thought may have been a political gain in the electoral field than to stick to their promises. And that says all you need to know about all of them.
Speaking of which, actually, what does it... not speaking of which, I'm not talking about women politicians over here, but I'm talking about women journalists right now. What does it say about our democracy when women journalists are expected to risk so much just to do the same job as our male counterparts? What does it... I'm not talking about the newsroom, but I'm talking about the democracy.
The women politicians who are campaigning for the men, holding on to the hope that perhaps in 2031 they're going to be able to run for office. The women politicians who have been working hard for the last 1.5 years, and more than that, during the entirety of the Awami League regime when they were in the opposition, hoping that this time they would be able to run for office, and still getting passed over just because they're women. And I know it's because they're women, because the numbers say that. You can't pass over 96% of, of your candidates and say that this is not because of gender. It is entirely because of gender.
Right.
So when you're seeing practices like that, it sort of shapes how a woman is seeing her workspace to begin with. She knows that the battle will be twice as long, twice as hard, and the gains will be a fraction.
Possibly twice as less.
I was going to say a fraction of what the man gets. And that's what it says about our democracy. Our democracy is predominantly male. Our democracy is predominantly Muslim. Our democracy does not have space for women, for religious minorities, for ethnic minorities, for gender minorities.
Last question to you, Zaima, is as a reporter, do you feel that the public expectations from journalists this election is different? What is that expectation?
The public expectation from this election is that...
From journalists in this election, what does the public expect from you in covering this election this time? Because, over the years, the elections were always the same kind, the same things were happening. It was almost like, writing the same report, every year, every 4 years. But this time is going to be different. What do you think what are the people hoping for?
Well, I would like to believe that the journalists or that the public expects the journalists to be free, fair, impartial, fully impartial.
Because this was one of the biggest problems during and after the uprising, that the political bias of journalists, that was always into question.
The politicization of the media organizations,
right.
Not necessarily of the individual journalists. Right, I do want to make that distinction.
Absolutely.
Because journalists often just do a job. When you've graduated from journalism and you need to get a job, you don't get to have a say in what your house's editorial policies are. You really are just a cog in the machine. So the public definitely expects an impartial media during this election. I don't know if the journalists have been able to give the public the kind of impartial media that they want. I think that... and this has been documented, especially in the Media Reform Commission's report, that following the uprising, media organizations which were previously aligned with the Awami League
kind of just switched sides.
Yeah, they did. They kind of just switched sides. The players are just different. And that is a problem. That is definitely a problem. Independent media is still rare. I think we are one of the few rare examples at the moment. And we will be sticking to our ideals, of course. But that's one portion of the public. There's another portion of the public which actually does not want a free media. They don't want an independent media. They want an obedient media. They want a media
that will amplify their narrative.
Amplify their narratives. And this portion of the public, this is patronized by the political groups. This is a portion of the public that attacked the Daily Star.
And Prothomalo,
And Prothomalo. This is a portion of the public that were angry at us because we refused to bow down to the narratives that they wanted to sell. So I think, the public we have to be heedful of what the public wants, but sometimes we have to also know that they don't necessarily know better.
Right,
And we need to be able to tell them what they need to know as opposed to what they want to know.
Zaima, this was very exciting to start my first episode of this podcast with you. I thank you so much. It's an honor to always have a conversation with you, and nothing to say but thank you. Thanks, Zaima.
The honor was mine.